still in New York. And today's question is from somebody who calls themselves mental scientist. And mental scientist sent in the question from Istanbul. We are continuing our discussions on discoveringyourcosmicself.com, and the questions are coming up from people who have read You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters, co-written with Menas Kafatos, who's a cosmologist, climate change expert, and a quantum physicist. So today's question from mental scientist. My question is, can consciousness or pure awareness be likened to information? Or is it simply information? Here is an analogy in my mind. In my imagination, I regard consciousness, spirit, as infinite information. Infinite information. So right there, a little correction, as the source of infinite information. Our soul is filtering, limiting mechanism of this infinity, which may be likened to software program, and creates what Dr. Chopra calls constructs according to the program which is being run. And our body is a specifically designed computer which converts the informational constructs into its physical correspondence through the nervous system and brain. As a consequence of this process, information is getting information. So it is becoming form. And absolute information expresses itself relatively in a space-time environment which we call cosmos. The reason why I asked this question, consciousness/awareness is a highly abstract concept for me to think about. I want to replace it with a more tangible concept in order to gain more understanding of it. So lots of love from Istanbul. First of all, lots of love to you. Here's the answer. Anything that we can give a name to or that we can describe is a construct that human consciousness has given to a mode of knowing and experience. So while I understand why you think consciousness could be information, the fact is information is a derivative of consciousness. Now you say, well, you're using the word consciousness, so that's also a mental construct. And the answer to that is we have to use words to communicate with each other. So let's agree on some solid agreements, which are of course constructs that everybody would agree to. So matter is a name we give to particles, which is another name we give to something that can be measured in units of mass and energy. Energy is a name we give to that which can perform work. I lift my hand, requires energy. I speak, requires energy. I move this book from here to this, here it requires energy. So energy is what creates or what performs work. Matter is something that can be quantified in units of mass and energy, even a small particle. But also matter has mass. Okay, matter usually has solidity. Matter is usually bounded. Now you could say that about a particle, but today some people argue between what is a physicalist and what is a materialist. So a physicalist is taken the definition of matter even further into forces of nature, like strong and weak interactions, the strong interaction being the force that holds the nucleus of an atom together, the weak interaction which causes radioactive decay, and electromagnetic forces which permeate the whole cosmos and which we're using right now to communicate through electromagnetic forces. These are basically electromagnetic energies that are radiating from where I am right now in the form of electromagnetic waves moving through space and going through servers, possibly bouncing off satellites, and finally ending up on your phone or handheld device. So that is also now included as matter through what is called physicalism. All the elements and forces of the universe are matter and energy. Now come to information. Information was first articulated very well by a scientist called Claude Shannon, who worked for Bell Labs, and information is described as the resolution of uncertainty. So let's take an example. Today is a warm day. That's kind of fuzzy. For you it may be warm, for me it may not be that warm, for somebody, other species, it may be even cold. So we can say today the temperature in New York is 61 degrees, and we all agree what that means, and that describes both an idea of what we mean by the temperature today at this time in New York. Okay, so it's information is the resolution of uncertainty, and we are using information right now and energy to communicate. You and I and everybody who is watching us is basically getting this experience as a result of the exchange of information and energy. So where does this fit in with mind and what we call consciousness? One of the best definitions of mind, because usually people get into all arguments about what is mind, one of the best definitions of mind that I have come across is by a neuropsychiatrist, Dan Siegel at UCLA, and he says mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. Let me repeat that. Mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. Not only in the biological system, but in the entire ecosystem that we are all participating in right now. So my mind, which is my thoughts at this moment, and thoughts are both energy and information. Like if I have my thought, lift up the hand, that thought has energy, otherwise my hand would not lift up, and it has information. Lifting the hand is a precise form of information, different than let me wiggle my toes or let me go to Hawaii. So thoughts are impulses of energy and information, and the mind is that which is regulating the flow of energy and information. So mind is an embodied, means it's in my body, not just in my brain, but my whole body is a form of mind. In the brain, the mind is speaking in English with an Indian accent, but if you think of mind as energy and information and being embodied in the entire mind, because whatever happens in the mind affects the brain, and whatever affects the brain affects the body, then my mind is embodied, but it's also relational. It's interacting with your mind now as you're listening to me and you're responding to me. Okay, so we are in a relational mode. Mind cannot be by itself, except when you're sitting quietly, close your eyes, watching your thoughts or experiencing your thought. In general, mind is both embodied and relational. So my mind is now in relationship with your mind. You're agreeing, you're disagreeing, you're sending me comments, and so on. So we are all part of this ecosystem of relational happenings. As I'm speaking to you, and this conversation is causing a change in your cerebral cortex, which is then sending messages. If I was having an emotional conversation, it may be affecting your limbic system, influencing things like oxytocin and dopamine and opiates and serotonin. If it was creating bliss, then another peptide these days that they call anandamide and norepinephrine, which makes you excited, etc. So our mind, once again, is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information in the entire ecosystem of relationship. So now we've seen the difference between mind, which is thoughts, and energy, but also process that is regulating the flow of energy and information. What about consciousness? Consciousness is the source of all that. So consciousness is not a thought, but where the thought comes from. And the thought is a modified form of consciousness. Perception is also a modified form of consciousness. Imagination, intuition, insight, all modifications of consciousness. So here is how we go backwards. Matter, which is also energy. Energy, which is infused with information, and information which has its source in consciousness. If we really think about this, then consciousness is all there is. Consciousness modifies itself as energy, as information, as matter, but ultimately as experience of that which we call matter, which is an interpretation of sense perceptions, interpretation of thoughts, which is what we call mind, of emotions, of feelings, which we call emotions. So a good map of this would be the physical body, which is matter and energy, the subtle body, which is mind, intellect, and ego, and is more in the direction of information, and then the causal body, which is consciousness, which is the source of all this. Okay, but also is modifying it as itself as energy, information, space-time, and matter, and the experiences thereof, because space-time, matter, energy are all modes of knowing given names and given descriptions, but ultimately modes of knowing and experience which are modifications of consciousness. Therefore, once again, all there is consciousness. If you're religious, you can say all there is God. All there is spirit. And you as a body-mind system, which is interacting with the universe, which is a projection of yourself, are a particular mode of that universal or cosmic consciousness. And ultimately, mind, brain, body, universe, and consciousness are one entity which is non-local, experiencing itself as local. You are cosmic consciousness experiencing yourself as an individual consciousness by having edited out most of experience and only attached yourself to certain modes of experience. Now this in the Vedic terminology is physical body, subtle body, mind, intellect, ego, causal body, Jivatma, the individual consciousness that has been programmed as a result of karma, memory and desire, and then Atman, relatively unconditioned consciousness, and then ultimately Brahman, cosmic consciousness. But all is one. It's all one cosmic consciousness, and we are ripples in the vast ocean of consciousness. You're not the ripple, you're the ocean that is now, in this moment, the ripple. But the ripple is in time, you as the ocean are not in time. Okay, so this is the answer to my friend from Istanbul. There is only one being, that is cosmic consciousness, and we are all differentiated expressions of that, and the ultimate experience of that is that which we call love. Okay? That which we call love. Love not as a mere sentiment, but love as the ultimate truth at the heart of all creation. Love as the knowledge and experience of unity consciousness. Love where there is no separate self, where there is effortless spontaneity, where love radiates from you like light from a bonfire, denied to none and focused on none. Love that also modulates itself as empathy and compassion and peace and equanimity, loss of the meaning of separate self, and the richness of experience that comes from there, and the flow that results as a result of no resistance to what is, and no anticipation and no regrets, just this moment as it is. Okay, so thank you for all your comments, and thank you for sharing this video. Thank you for the lovely hearts that you're sending. What is the red light behind you? The red light behind me. I don't know. Petra says namaste. I honor the sacred in you that is the sacred in me. Many people are sharing this video and this conversation, and let's keep doing that so we can expand the conversation. I will continue to post answers from anyone who has questions from You Are the Universe, or any other questions that you might have. Okay, so behind me, this painting right that I'm pointing, that is Shiva riding the bull, Nandi the bull, and lamp behind me is a lamp, a red lamp. Okay, but if you really get this, the lamp behind me, the painting, you, me, there are no borders, there are no boundaries. We are spaceless, timeless, borderless, unbounded, eternal, non-local, bliss, Sat, Chit, Anand. I'll talk about death if you want tomorrow, but death is part of the illusion, just like birth is part of the illusion. Birth and death are mental constructs that come from the identity of the separate self. But when you let go of the separate self, then there's only the deep now. Only the deep now. And in the deep now is infinite love. Okay, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.